Ole Miss faded late against the Georgia Bulldogs, but they are setting up a massive clash with the Oklahoma Sooners. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Ole Miss. I am your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member. We're going to bring in John Fourcade, Ole Miss legend and former quarterback, to get his thoughts on what happened in Athens, what needs to happen in Norman, Oklahoma. Thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day. And please give us a like, subscribe, and comment on your way out, and check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every college and pro team is available. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download that app today. All right. So we're going to bring in John Fourcade. And Mr. Fourcade, listen, you played in a game against the Alabama Crimson Tide that we're going to get to, but that game, for 3/4 of it, Trinidad Chambliss was just absolutely flawless. But it got to the point where the defense couldn't stop anybody. You could see the pressure start to affect him. It's like, hey, every pass I throw has to be perfect, because if I make a mistake, they're going to stop us and they're going to beat us. And that's what happened.
Well, Ole Miss played 58 minutes of football and Georgia played 60. And you look at the last 2 minutes of the game, Ole Miss in the last two drives did nothing, totally nothing. And I think the situation was, they put so much pressure on Trinidad and the offense to win the game because the defense couldn't stop running water, turn the faucet off, and it was leaking. They just got manhandled. And I'm going to say this, and I've been a big component of this. This rush through and drop everybody, well, you're giving teams every opportunity to run down your throat. You don't have enough big guys in there to play to stop the run. It worked well against LSU a couple of weeks ago, but you got to tweak things and do things. And I felt like, the Washington State game was the same way, because they beat LSU, figured, we just use the same defense. And you don't have the studs or the depth chart on your defensive side of football. And that puts a lot more pressure on your offense, because now you can't have a play that goes bad for you or an incomplete pass. And you can't be behind the chains. You can't have a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. You got to do things from the offensive standpoint to keep your defense off the field. But Georgia is Georgia. They got studs. They got better players on that side than obviously what Ole Miss had. But listen, I said this, Stephen, all the way. I said, this is the situation. Ole Miss ain't going undefeated. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to go flat out to anybody's face and tell them this. They can lose 2 ball games and still make the college playoffs. All right, I had them losing this year, possibly 2 games. This was one of them. The slip-up could be this game coming up against Oklahoma. We'll get into that. But with the Georgia game, they played so doggone well for 3/4 and a half of the fourth quarter, and it just wore their defense out. Golden couldn't do anything defensively. He don't have the – you can't run 6-7 guys in and take 6-7 guys off. You just don't have the depth. And so, they got to regroup. They're still in the thick of things. They're in the top 10. All they got to do is win out or maybe lose one more, see what happens. Who cares about playing for the SEC championship? That's out the window now. That doesn't matter anymore. It's who plays in the 12 playoff games, the playoff team format. So that's what they're trying to get into.
You played a game against the Alabama Crimson Tide. It was one of those weird games. This was back when a 6-3 game was commonplace. So right. The score line was very jarring back in the day. Now it's just normal. You see that every Saturday. But Alabama won that game 59-35. What was that like, knowing that, hey, we can have all the plan in the world, but all this pressure is on me because we cannot get a stop?
I'll say this much. The defense that I played against in that game, 59-35, there's no Alabama defense nowhere near what Bear Bryant had. We scored 35 points on a Bear Bryant coach defensive team, and the game ended, Mr. Bryant. Bear Bryant almost had me come there. I was almost on the verge of signing there. And he wanted me really bad. It didn't work out. But when the game was over, he came and said, son, ain't nobody ever put 35 points on my defensive team. We were in that football game. And, at the end, what killed us was we didn't have the depth. And we came back from it rained at halftime, and it got hotter. We just don't have the depth what Alabama had. But when you get those high-scoring games, back in the day, it didn't happen where both teams battled. We didn't lose that game until the fourth quarter. And, they pulled away from us. We were still in it. We had a double reverse pass, which I wish the heck they would have never called. I didn't throw the pick, but we had a wide receiver ain't threw a pass all year, tried to throw a double reverse pass. But when you get in those type ball games, every possession you get, almost like you got to score. And it ain't field goals. You got to score touchdown for touchdown and hope somebody screw up. And that's what happened with us. We slipped up, had a turnover, and they changed the momentum. I was throwing for almost 400 yards in that game, 4 touchdowns. Things were going well for us, and then we converted to do some different stuff for whatever reason. What we were doing was working, and that's what Lane's got to get to these guys coming, going into this week's game. You got another game on the road. They needed to play this game at home to help them. They're going on the road. This is a good team they're going to play again. The Oklahoma Sooners got their quarterback back. Look, they went to South Carolina and spanked South Carolina. Not that South Carolina is a great team, but you're still going in the SEC on the road, and they won in South Carolina. Can Ole Miss go there? They have to regroup. Lane has to get them because, man, if they lose this game, they still got some games left to play, and then the momentum of your players, their heads start to droop, and then they start to doubt themselves and say, well, we can't lose any more football games. If you slip up and lose 3 games, chances are you're not getting in it in the college playoff games.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think tomorrow's show, I mentioned the fact that this Oklahoma game is getting bigger and bigger almost by the hour for what it actually means. And that Georgia game, you almost don't want to say flush it, but you do want to say flush it, because scoring 35 points in Athens, Georgia, that is something that you need to carry on, especially playing a defense like Brent Venables at Oklahoma. But that defensive performance, do you even watch film after that?
Well, if you got blown out 40-10, you're not watching the film. There's not much, but there were some good things that came from the defense early on. And like I said, I just kept watching it and watching. I'm like telling everybody around me, and said, they're getting tired. They're getting wore out because Georgia wasn't throwing the football all over. They threw the ball at times. They ran it down Ole Miss's throat. And that kept that defense on the field. And they couldn't just go make 6 guys in for 6 guys and, rotate. They don't have that depth. Georgia Bulldogs have it. Alabama's, they have it. Ole Miss is not quite. Now, a year ago, maybe Ole Miss could have done that. Could have changed up some depth guys, and they just didn't have it. And you can see it was wearing them out as the fourth quarter went on. They were up until the fourth quarter. They were still dominating, playing well. In the middle of that fourth quarter, things changed, and then that just made things more difficult. But the good thing is they got a game to play this weekend. Can they go on the road? Look, they went on the road to Athens. I know how hard it is to play in Athens. Mm-hmm. It ain't the easiest place to play. Now they got to go to Oklahoma. It's not the easiest play in Oklahoma. I mean, that's historical college football programs, and going into Oklahoma, that's going to be a tough battle for them. But if he can regroup them. Now, Oklahoma's, in my eyes, they're not better than the Georgia Bulldogs. They do have some potential. I think they got one of the best top quarterbacks in the SEC and maybe all in the country until he got hurt a couple of weeks ago. But he still played pretty doggone good last week, 2 weeks ago against Texas. Coming back from that injury, I think they rushed it. He rushed it. But, they got a good defense in Oklahoma. That's what they're known for. But it's got to be a situation where Lane don't turn the ball over, which they haven't been doing offensively. But they got to find something defensively to change up. You just can't sit in a 3-man rush and hope things work out. You got to change a 4-man rush, 5-man. You got to blitz. You got to do things defensively to help your team. If you just sit there like you did against LSU, LSU's not Oklahoma offensively. LSU is not Georgia Bulldogs offensively. I think Golden thought that, we shut down LSU's got a horrible offense. Oklahoma and I think Georgia, and some of these other teams they're going to play the rest of the season have a lot better offense than what LSU has.
All right, when we come back, we will talk to Mr. Fourcade, John Fourcade, Ole Miss legend, about the Oklahoma game. We'll get into that in depth, and then a little bit later on, we'll talk about the Florida rumors and all that as well. All of that is coming up when we come back. All right, so I do want to let you know the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets. You can use it across the app. I personally love how FanDuel gives me so many different ways to play. I've built parlays. I've tried player props. I've even followed live lines during the games. It makes watching football even that much more exciting when you have a little something riding on the action. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Also, one of the tools that helps make a huge business difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. I love how Quo, formerly known as OpenPhone, lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts, kind of like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. You can even keep your existing number for free. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast as well on whichever audio podcatcher you're listening to, and give us a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keeps all of this free. Locked On is getting ready to change the game yet again, all in the name of having fun following your team. It's coming in December, so stick around for that. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you. All right, so John, one thing that's interesting going up to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's offensive coordinator is Ben Arbuckle. He's from the same coaching tree, kind of a descendant of the stuff that Mike Leach did. This is a game that is a fairly good matchup for Ole Miss defensively, because I think a lot of that drop 8 type stuff can work, but they can't rely exclusively on it, if that makes sense.
Well, you got to make some kind of changes defensively, and you just can't. When you drop 8, that's like you're sitting in the zone. Okay, we understand it. When you got 2 guys deep and your corners are up, you got 2 things you can play. You can play lock on man on the outside and 2 guys deep. That's kind of a zone. They don't really lock on anybody. And you got your backers and guys underneath running around. That tends to open up the running game, okay, because you got one less guy in the box. And I've always said 4 guys rushing. You can always drop an end in the flat. But when you just line up basically 3 and they're seeing that, you don't have the outside guys to come on board and help you in the running department. And then when they do come up, they're too deep. They're 5, 6, 7 yards deep from the line of scrimmage. So they have got to make some changes on the defensive side. Look, I played offense. I know from a quarterback standpoint what I would love to see to go up against. And if they're dropping, and I'm not throwing deep on them, heck, catch and run. And, that's all you need to get completion. What that is in the quarterback offense, that's like a extending of the running game. If you throw the quick passes, guy catches it and runs. It's no different than running the football. You're underneath stuff. So Ole Miss has got to bring some heat. They didn't bring enough heat at all on on Stockton. Yeah, the Gunnar Stockton kid at all. I thought he had too much time. They did some things with him in the pocket. He got out. He beat him with his feet. You wouldn't expect that. Like Trinidad, he's beating people with his feet too. So they have to go into this game. Oklahoma is going to be known Brent Venables has got the defense. He's a defensive coach. He's going to come in. He's got tricks up his sleeve. I mean, they bring the house. They'll bring some things, do some adjustments. That's what Golden has to do now with the Rebels. You got to find some things, make some adjustments. Ole Miss's offense, I mean, look what they scored. They can score with anybody. We all know that. Lane Kiffin's offense can play with the best of them. They don't have the studs on defensive side of football. So what do you got to do? You got to be a coach who can make some creative decisions to do something. Gamble. Take a shot at it. Doesn't work, it doesn't work. Well, hell, it beats just sitting back there letting them run up and down the field, because that does what? Keep your offense off the field.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And speaking of Oklahoma, since we are now lifelong rivals with the Oklahoma Sooners in a football game that goes back 2 centuries, what role, if any, did you have, and what did they try to do to get Marcus Dupree?
Marcus Dupree. You know, Philadelphia. I went to visit him. We chat, and I'm good friends with him. We still chat now from all these years. And the funny thing is, they brought me on board, and let's try to get Marcus. And I went and recruited him and chat. You know, we weren't offering Allwells. You know, and I'm gonna say this: Barry Switzer came to my high school, pretty much sat there and told me, "Son, you come to Oklahoma, we're looking at Allwells." we look, they were throwing some good cash around and some good things back in the day. It wasn't called NIL money, but it was definitely some good stuff to go to. That's what I mean. You can't compete back in the day with the illegal recruiting they had then compared with this is now. This is nothing, because there's no more illegal recruiting. You can put the money on the table and say it. Back then it was different. Ole Miss just couldn't afford him. I know he would love to have stayed, but when you got a kid coming from Philadelphia, Mississippi, which basically, it's like, nothing compared to growing up in a big city. And so they figured, hey, let me help you out here. Come on over to Oklahoma Sooners and Barry Switzer, and we'll give you any and anything you want to come here. And that's what it was. I mean, let's be honest. He could have picked and choose any school he wanted. I had an opportunity to pick a lot of schools myself. I took the best deal that was for me and down the road, and we'll see what happens. And I had better deals, but I didn't take them. I wanted to play more than I wanted the money, where he probably needed the cash and everything else.
Yeah, it's interesting because you watch the best this ever was and all that, but Oklahoma ran the wishbone. When Marcus Dupree got up there, they got into the I formation.
Correct.
That tells you how good he is.
Well, I guarantee you, he said something to the fact like, I'm coming there. If I come there, I'm not running no wishbone. He's no wishbone running back. And I didn't want to run a wishbone. And Barry Switzer was kind of funny when he said, look, man, we want you to come here and everything, but we very seldom have white quarterbacks playing at Oklahoma because they want them fast guys running the wishbone. And I said, nah, I'm not going to take a pounding. And, Alabama was a little different style wishbone than with Oklahoma. They had a broken wishbone. They didn't go the whole time, 3 backs in the backfield. So different teams back in the day, it was running a football. You didn't have quarterbacks throwing like they did unless you went to some of these weird schools that threw the football. But everything was ground and pound. And so Marcus Dupree, when you get 30 touches a game, he's Herschel Walker. He's Herschel Walker at Georgia, Marcus Dupree at Oklahoma, and they both 2 fantastic all-everything running backs. And I mean, we couldn't compete against that.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, we will ask the legend John Fourcade about Lane Kiffin in Florida and all the smoke that's around right now. We'll talk about that in just a second when we come back. But first, I do want to let you know, let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investment, it is easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your phone or laptop. It helped me organize my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments, all without having to touch a spreadsheet. I love that I can review everything with my partners, see our shared goals, and make better financial decisions together. Monarch's virtual dashboards are smart tools, make it so much easier to understand where my money is going and how to make it work harder for me. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. So, John, listen, Billy Napier got let go at Florida. All the betting services and all the smoke on Twitter and everybody's talking about they're coming hard after Lane Kiffin. And I was like, okay, you can come hard after Lane Kiffin. He's got 3 10-win seasons in the last 4 years. Of course you're coming after Lane Kiffin. That doesn't mean he's coming to you, though.
Right. Well, you know how it is when listen, I'm here in Louisiana territory here by the LSU. All they're saying is get rid of Kelly and let's go after Lane Kiffin, And then I heard some people say, well, hold on to LSU and Ole Miss. We over here in Texas, and if he don't do Stark doesn't start playing and showing us things, then it could be let's go after Lane Kiffin. So everybody was going after Lane Kiffin. I mean, who wouldn't want to go after Lane Kiffin? It's what he wants, I mean, it's financial. I mean, first and foremost, I'll say that college coaches these days are getting overpaid. It's too much money they give to these guys. And then when they have to fire them, then they're going to give them, here's $70 million. That's why LSU can't get rid of Kelly, $80 million. James Franklin picked up 59. Jimbo Fisher picked up 75. So that's the problem with these coaches nowadays, and it's financially money. They're paying so much to these coaches, and then when you fire them, you got to give them all this money. Now your NIL deals are falling apart. So they're paying people. So only reason I can see Lane leaving Ole Miss, one is he goes to Florida. They're going to have to give him, $12, $13, $14 million a year as a college coach. It's getting ridiculous. It's outrageous, and it shouldn't be that way. But he's the top guy. Granted, he can score points, but he's also ain't the greatest when it comes to defensive coaches now. He better get a defensive, you can't get in 42, 41 shootouts and expect to go further in life. Alabama's didn't do that with Saban. Kirby Smart's not doing that in Georgia. You got to play some defense. You better start thinking about your defense instead of saying, oh, we'll get a good defensive coordinator, but if you don't have anything to make chicken salad, you know what I'm saying? He got something else to make chicken salad. You can't do that. So Lane Kiffin is going to be on everybody. I mean, everybody's, screen. They go, oh, I want Lane Kiffin. Who the first guy you're going to talk about is Lane Kiffin. But what does Lane Kiffin want? That's the main thing. Is he happy at Ole Miss? And he feels like can he play for a national championship year in and year out? No, he can't. Can he do it at Florida? Maybe he can, because you get different styles of quality of players that go there at Georgia with history, at Florida with the history they have there to Oxford. There's nothing wrong being in Oxford in the SEC, but you're not, it's Georgia, Florida. You remember for years in the two split divisions, Georgia and Florida. Over here you had Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M's now in it. Now you got Texas. Well, you can slide over there. They don't play them as much as the teams over in the West, but they don't have the East and West anymore. But, it's all going to be coming down to Lane Kiffin. Is the money more important than staying in Oxford?
Now, one thing that's interesting, when I was on staff at Ole Miss, it was 2006. So that's less than 20 years ago. The head coach at Ole Miss was making somewhere in the ballpark of $650,000. In 19 years, we're having discussions about $13 and $14 million.
Yeah, and when's it going to stop? You're going to price yourselves out. University can price you. You can't get players anymore because they're going to say, well, we need to boost the money to pay these coaches. We're firing. Do not give extensions. Do not give them this big amount of money. And, that's what they get. It's like what the kids are doing now. The NIL. I'm going to go play at Ole Miss 1 year. I catch 1,000 yards in passing, a receiver, 5 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. Guess what's going to happen? Team B is going to come along and say, what is Ole Miss offering you? I'm going to give you this. And in year 3, he can jump ship and go somewhere else. It's what these coaches are looking. They're going for the dollar signs. It's about the money now. You got to cap this. It's getting stupid, ridiculous. I mean, look, the guy in Indiana, I'm all happy for you. But what have you done? You played, last year you snuck in, you got him. This year you're probably going to do the same. Who knows? But if you ain't winning anything and you're getting all this money, and then what's going to happen? The buyout, 60, 70, 80 million. Where are you getting this money from? You're stealing it, or you're taking it away from another sporting and everybody else. You're taking the money away, and you say, "Oh, we gotta pay this guy's get out of town money, and then we're gonna bring a new guy." So it's funny. I'm gonna pay a guy $50-60 million to leave. Now I'm gonna turn around and pay a guy $50-60 million to come. Where you get his $100 million from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You get it from the fans. You end up charging. You end up going to an Ole Miss game. It's $4,000 for the weekend, and all of that. Look what's happening. They priced out normal people.
Who would have thought LSU's games now? They're not showing up there.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss the same way. I've had friends of mine go, "Man, we can't go to the games anymore." People leave at halftime. Some don't. They don't leave the Grove. I don't need to buy any tickets. I can sit in the Grove, chandeliers, leather couches, having somebody cater me food, dropping grapes in my throat as I sit in the big recliner and watch the game for free on TV. And I'm saving my $3,000 or $4,000. You drive in, you hang around, and you get the heck out of town. You're losing a lot of fans at games.
Yeah, should be pretty interesting. What do you got going on this weekend, John?
My nephew, who was quarterback for Nichols, is now going to be inducted to the Hall of Fame in Nichols Hall of Fame this Saturday. So we're going to the game for him. He's coaching at Central Arkansas. He can't make it, but our family will be there for him. I'm going to relax. Look, I was in Cabo all last week. I'm relaxing, taking my time because I'm going to be up in Oxford for Halloween night. I'm going to go see the weekend game against South Carolina next week. So I'm laying low this week, just relaxing. Just enjoying, I got a lot of things coming up from the standpoint. I'm going to have neck surgery probably late November, early December. So I want to get it done before the first of the year. So that'll be operation number 36. I think it might be 36. I mean, I'm between 38, 36. I'll stick at 36.
Well, best of luck there, and relax this weekend and all of that. The Realtree game, South Carolina, that's the Realtree helmets.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, so it's going to be the white camouflage with the gray face mask.
Oh, okay. I mean, they're trying to get like Oregon now, huh? They're going to have 2,000 different, shenanigans. Let's go back to the regular red, white, and blue with the gray pants.
Except for the road uniforms where they wear the same thing every game with the blue numbers and the white pants and the blue helmet.
Yeah.
What happened to the red number jerseys?
Hey, look, I don't know. It's gotten so different. Ole Miss when I was there, I remember we were voted all these years of the red jerseys, the white jerseys, the blue jerseys with the different numbers and stuff that goes well with the gray pants with the blue and red stripes on the side. Fantastic. Now you start getting all these kids and players. They only want to go there because they want to go, well, what kind of jersey we wearing and what kind of helmets, what kind of this. Man, play football. Who cares what the heck you wear? Wear the same. But tradition is gone. You never see Alabama and Georgia do all that tricky-dicky stuff. All that. Jerseys don't win football games. Helmets don't win football games. It's the guys that are inside of the jerseys and the helmet that win your football games. If you want to go there to get all decked out with uniform stuff, you're going there for the wrong reason.
All right, John Fourcade, Ole Miss legend, coming on the show. We'll talk to you next week, bud.
All right, Stephen. Take care. Have a good week.
You too. All right, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves in offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we are the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. And another big moment for Locked On, college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV are presenting College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's panel of local experts, a college football preview show that only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.